This is my fourth or fifth attempt to shoot this self-image video. Um, I've tried so many times that I actually missed all of 2021. And my thought process was I didn't want to make one of these sort of yearly video diary entry things until something notable happened. And while last year I got married, that was, not something it's not notable. I spent most of it stationary. In 2022, we celebrated our second year of owning a home. My family, who had been living with us since just after the start of the pandemic, started to move out. And I had shot Ava a full year before and didn't have a finished product yet. There were reshoots in 2022. There were pieces that came together, pieces that are in the movie, but there was still something missing. Outside of the film, I'd finally managed to secure a job that, allowed me to pay my rent on time, pay my mortgage on time. And I was so focused on trying to wrangle our debt that we'd accrued through the pandemic, that Ava had to necessarily take a back seat. On top of that, I have depression, so half the time I'd be convinced I was, me and my movie and anything else was worthless, and then the next week I'd be convinced I was hot shit because I watched a good scene from the movie. At the end of 22, we had our first pet die, Mowgli. What happened was I found blood, spots of blood in the kitty litter that we have, pretty litter, I guess, so it changes colors. And I had assumed it was Shanti, the little girl we have, because girl cats are much more likely to get UTIs, which is usually where the blood would come from. It was Mowgli. And he was straining to pee, and just blood droplets were coming out. Not good. Took him to the vet. That was a Friday. They gave him some medication, I think it was a blood thinner of some sort, and something else to counteract that. And over the weekend, his condition did not improve at all. I can't remember if it was Sunday or Monday night, but I'm going to say Monday. Yeah, Monday. I came home from work, and he had not left from beneath my mom's bed, which was one of his favorite spots. So it was, we hadn't faced what was happening yet. We were just assuming maybe he's just hanging out. Dinner came, he did not move. I brought him wet food, he did not care. And at a certain point, he crawled out from under the bed and started yowling and just his entire body convulsing, and it was horrible to watch. So I took him back to the vet, and shortly thereafter they told me I needed to get him to an emergency room quickly. So we did. We drove 40 minutes to take him there. Bree had gotten off work, met me at the vet, drove separately to get to the other place. We dropped him off. The vets took him in, and 20 minutes later we got a phone call saying that he was in very late stage heart failure. Very sudden, because of a pre-existing condition we didn't know about. No one would have known about until it went wrong. And we had the option between 6 months of very expensive, very poor quality of life, or euthanizing him tonight. And we euthanized him. We have a picture of him now on the mantelpiece. We have a little impression of his paw in a clay thing. And that was not my favorite time of year. My family was very understanding, as they are, with how I am, so I took some time away, and on On Christmas, I was sitting in my brother's kitchen, depressed, having not done this yet, having not completed my feature yet, having not done a lot of things that I'd wanted to do. And I'm very poor at keeping track of what age I am. I'm 27 or 28 now, which is by no means old. I'm not afraid of 30. It's just, what I am afraid of is not achieving any of my goals. One of which was make a feature film. And I have all the pieces sitting right here. Why is it not done? So on Christmas, as I'm sitting in my brother's kitchen, I bring out my laptop and I start editing Ava from scratch. Kind of. I started putting together the movie, and within a month, so right after our year anniversary of being married, I had a cut of Ava, front to back. The audio sucked, and there were some real rough patches in there, but you could watch the movie now. And around that time, I realized that there was a weak spot in the film. And as the rest of the movie kind of coalesced, that weak spot started to stick out more and more. And the problem with the weak spot was, you can get away with maybe not the best dialogue or like kind of a clunky exposition scene earlier on, maybe. But this was the dramatic crux of the movie. If this didn't work, the movie would kind of fall flat. So I started thinking, I think I want to reshoot it. That reshoot happened about a week ago now. And we now have a much stronger movie. But I'm getting ahead of myself. At the beginning of this year, when I had that first cut of Ava, I sent it out to a couple people to look at, just to give them something to see. The reaction was very confused, mainly because not a lot of my friends make movies. So, and even if you do, watching a poorly kind of assembled rough cut is not. It's not great. It's not a great experience. Even if the movie's going to be amazing, it's not a great experience. So, around springtime, I started toying with the idea of doing a premiere, an out-of-pocket private premiere for the cast, crew, which is just me and Austin, and anybody else who wanted to come. I posted about it in a Facebook group, and one of the women in the movie, Amy, said, "Hey, you should meet Santo Marabella." I said, "Great." Sent him a message, said hello, and we set up a Zoom call for the following Friday. That week, as is prone to happen, I was very depressed. Didn't feel great. It was the kind of depressed where you're just kind of bored by everything. I have an Xbox here. I like playing Xbox. I really like playing Halo. Didn't want to play Halo. Didn't want to play Xbox. Didn't want to watch TV. Didn't want to go to sleep. Didn't want to do anything. Just total ennui of the entirety of my life. Even the stuff I liked. But I had agreed to do the Zoom call, and I'm like, crap, right, I gotta talk to Santo, right, okay. And I try to put on, kind of almost like a customer service voice, where it's like, how may I serve you? I did not know who I was speaking to. And Santo is someone who has very quickly paved the way for possibilities I literally would not have been able to picture at the start of this year. It's July 1st right now. Yeah, it's July 1st. Even like March 1st, this would have been a virtual impossibility. And yet, by the end of that phone call, about an hour, Zoom call, I spoke to Santo, got to know him a little bit, and talked to him about what I wanted for my film. And I told him that what I wanted really was to get it in front of an audience to see what they think. He said, "Cool, I bet we could set up a screening, maybe like a filmmaker screening to, 20-ish filmmakers he might know from around the area that might be interested in coming to watch, to critique it." And as he's saying this, I'm trying desperately not to short circuit, because my face is still in depression mode, but the back of my head is starting to light up. All the neurons are connecting. That whole fireworks of emotion that happen when you're excited about something. I hope other people get that. Maybe it's just me. And I'm almost like on the verge of tears, because I'm like, this is this is insane. What are you talking about? You could do all this. And obviously, I get excited, but I'm trying not to oversell it to myself. I oversell to myself and everyone around me. So I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds incredible. I can get a cut finished by this date, and we could do something in June. Great. This is in March, April. So I get the film completed, and Santo's looking around for places. Um, right at the end of that phone call, he gave me the email address to someone at the Reading Film Office, which is great. I'd been interested in contacting them. I just have insecurities, so I never did. And he suggested, have I looked at submitting to the film festival? And I thought about it. I'm like, I haven't because of the $50. I've been poor most of my life, even now, despite having an Xbox and all this shit around me. I'm not rich at all, and $50 is an investment. And the change came when I was framing it as, instead of paying over $1,000 out of pocket for a screening, paying $50. And yeah, they could say yes or no, but it's only $50 compared to $1,000. That'd be pretty good. So I decided I'd submit to the Reading Film Fest. He gave me the email to someone at the office, Cami. I sent her an email. Great, right? That was a Friday. My weekend was great. I'm inevitably overselling, even though I didn't want to. So much so that by the middle of next week, the next week, I hadn't noticed that I hadn't gotten a phone call or email response or anything. But that's fine. I know they're busy. Then I got a phone call. Usually I get spam calls throughout the day. And sometimes I answer them, scream, and then hang up. So I'm very glad I didn't do that to this one. I got a voicemail from someone at the office saying, "Hey, I'm Dave. Sorry for not getting back to your email earlier. We were having issues with our emails clients. Give me a call whenever you can." We play phone tag for a little bit, and finally I get through. Dave and I had about a 15-minute phone call of just, my main question was, can I submit a work-in-progress film that will be done by the screening in October? He said, yeah, cool. That's really the end of my questions. He had stated that he's new to his position, which I wasn't sure what that was. I had assumed that, I think Cami is the executive director, or I'll correct the title here, whatever her title is, something director of the Reading Film Office. I had assumed that she had someone else got in contact with me who works at the office. Which technically was true, but he's the creative director of the office, which I did not know. I Googled him afterward, and his biggest claim to fame is something that weirdly all my friends know about. He is the originator of the idea for Teen Beach Movie, the Disney Channel original from about 10 years ago, which is the second highest rated cable television movie of all time. So that's cool. Talked with him, had a great conversation, and then I'm leaving the spring in a really good mood. Over the next 2 months, I get Ava up to snuff, and now that it's in a really strong quality front to back, the sound is better, the music is there, the temp music that I'm using, that weak point is really sticking out and is really damaging the whole film, because it kind of wet farts the first part and the ending feels not earned because this part isn't of the right quality. I talked with Lacey, I talked with Olivia, and asked them if they want to reshoot something. I ended up adding 10 pages, 13 minutes of screen time to my movie on earlier this week. And the scenes are so much better, not just than what came before, but they're some of the best scenes in the movie, if not the best scene in the movie is actually one of the reshoots. And on the day of the reshoots, the camera that I'm using now has a battery pack that I'm almost certain is broken because it does not charge in less than 24 hours. And it dies relatively quickly. It lasts for several hours, but it's still faster than I'd like. Mainly with the charging cable. Anyway, we shot the first part of these reshoots. So 5 pages were a reshoot or an additional scene with the therapist, and the last 5 pages were kind of a reshoot, complete rewrite, but replacement for the weakest part of the movie. I got the first part done, the shoot with the therapist, went really well, but we were running late. Part of that was because of me, part of that was because of scheduling, part of that was just thunderstorms were happening. So we had to, but we were running late, but you know what, no pressure, no stress. We're not going to stress today because I find that stressing doesn't help. That's what I said to myself. We got to my brother's house to shoot the second part, and I'm slowly but surely inevitably getting very stressed. And toward the end of our shooting, Maggie, the character Maggie, the actress Olivia, has a monologue that is, I think, a page and a half of just dialogue. And that is really hard to do at the best of times. And this was a rambling, emotional soliloquy of the character's life. It was not coming out right. And the problem with that was that my battery was now in the single digits, and it was going to die. And I wouldn't know until it stopped, because the battery pack has an LED indicator on the back, on the very back of the camera, but you need to kind of hold it up at the perfect angle. It's like an old Game Boy. Like, you can only see it from one angle. So my battery indicator on my Ninja or on the camera are lying. They're saying 100% until it dies. Hello? Oh, Jesus. Sorry. So I was very scared and very sad. Not because the acting was bad. The acting was fine. That wasn't the problem. The problem was I had felt like if we can't shoot this scene today, we can't shoot it again. My actresses are busy. And it means that I just wasted everyone's time. Because this therapist scene only works with the second half that we're not shooting. I get very sad. These are my friends now, so on a normal set, I would keep that to myself. In this case, I think I just shouted at one point. Because I was surrounded by my brother, who has seen me freak out since we were both infants, and two of my best friends at this point. So I have no qualms about keeping my emotions inside and telling them the truth, which is like, it's not your fault. The battery's going to die. If this doesn't get shot, the movie doesn't get improved. We're just going to have to deal with what we got, you know? And it's fine. Anyway, we get to the last take. We had chopped maybe a sentence from the end of the monologue, and Olivia really couldn't get past the first couple sentences fluidly because there was so much bullshit in it. And I say action, we're rolling, and I have, single-digit percentage points left on my battery. For the first part of the scene, the back of Olivia's head is the only thing you're seeing. She's doing great, acting with the back of her head. And then she turns and starts giving the monologue. And it's going really well. She's got all the words. They're coming out emotionally, which is really interesting, because that's not how it was scripted. And at a certain point, I see her eyes are turning red. And she's crying. And she's really giving an emotional performance here, and I am simultaneously, like, the cortisol level in my blood and the just straight up endorphins are neck and neck, because I don't know how much battery I have left. If my battery dies mid-take, we're fucked. You can't do that again. On top of that, Apollo, a cat that my brother has that does not understand the concept of fear or the word no, jumps up on the counter. And he might walk straight into frame. And I said to myself, if he walks into frame, I'm just... Canonically, Maggie has a cat now. I don't give a shit. She has a cat. And we get to the end of the scene, and they hug, and that's the end of the scene. And the words on the mic are me saying, Jesus Christ, what the fuck was that? And in a good way. That's a good thing coming from me. And I hugged Olivia for, I think, the second time in my life. And I was so happy that I basically collapsed. My entire body went limp. I just sat on my brother's, the foot of my brother's steps, took off my glasses, took off my hat, and just kind of had my head in my hands like this, like stunned. Because what Olivia had just done is saved my movie. The movie would have been fine without it. Fine, maybe like 5 out of 10. But now she had made it percentage points better. Like, so much better. And I looked at the back of my camera battery. We had 7% left. And I was just elated. I had never felt such relief in my life. And Licia looked at me and said I looked like a Norman Rockwell painting, which I love that description. That's going on my gravestone. And what I saw at the end of that scene was the closing of the chapter of Ava. The reshoots are done. I'm done with these characters. There's no sequel to Ava. It's over. And the screening, which by the way is happening, the screening is going to have this scene in it. I took Licia to a rehearsal that they had that day, where I got to meet Santo in person for the first time. I shook his hand, but I could have just hugged him, because this screening that's happening is happening on July 15th, so about 2 weeks from today. Almost exactly 2 weeks from today. And I'm touring the facility today. We'll see how it is. But we're going to have my movie playing in front of an audience. It's going to be the best version of the movie that we have. The temp music is all in there. Austin watched it last night and vetted it, liked it, which is good. It's good when Austin likes something. We started working on the real score, which will not be for the screening, but will be, in a couple months, it'll be in there. And I felt this tremendous sense of relief when I got the scenes in there, slotted them in, exported. It was very quick almost. It took about, 2 days from the second we shot it to finished product. I had the scenes in it that night, but, I was just really surprised that it was over now. And there's a sort of melancholy that comes with that I haven't really had before, and I thought about it. I've basically been working nonstop since 2016. In 2013, I became homeless. Shortly after that, in 2014, because I became, winter of 2013 is when I became homeless. 2014, I graduated. 2015, I believe, I started writing Abigail, the other A movie I have. Abigail, and by 2016 we were shooting it. February we shot the first part with Abigail and Kylie, and then we shot the Joel parts in July. Took about 2 years, but I put it together at the end and, threw it out on the internet. It's still there. It's my highest viewed thing, even though I'm supremely embarrassed by it now. But even though it took me 2 years, from 2016 to 2018 is when I was working on Abigail, but 2017 I started working on Mockingbird, writing it. So 2017 I was writing it, and when 2018 came, I exported and threw Abigail out to the world. Mockingbird was in flux. I had Mackenzie cast. We figured out that we're going to be shooting it here, here, and here, where everything was moving. 2 years later, in 2020, I export Mockingbird, have a nice little premiere. Amrit, my big homie, sees it at the premiere and is, very nice. And digital premiere because of COVID, and also because I could never afford a real premiere. But at that point, I'm also working on Ava. So, I have these index cards everywhere, and I have, a half-finished script and a real finished script and a whole bunch of pieces everywhere. And then in 21, we shoot Ava. 2 years later, almost exactly as of right now, we're finishing it. I have Left Unsaid. That's my next project. But weirdly, I've already finished Left Unsaid. I finished the draft. I have notes for the next one, but it's not happening yet. I don't know when I'm shooting it. Could be in a couple months, could be next year, could be 10 years from now, I don't know. So I'm left in this kind of floating, weightless space of I don't have a project in front of me. I haven't not had a project in front of me in a very long time, for the entirety of my 20s. So, what do you do? What do you do with free time? Genuinely free time. You don't have anything taking up your mental bandwidth besides the normal, everyday life bullshit. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm doing now. Maybe Left Unsaid will just pick up immediately and I can just roll straight into that. But if not, it's kind of amazing. when I made Abigail, I was I made a joke about Steven Spielberg not seeing it on the internet and then giving me a phone call and whisking me off to wherever. But when that actually didn't happen, I did become very depressed because I worked really hard on Abigail, I worked really hard on Mockingbird, I worked really hard on Ava, but bad movies take a lot of work too, and it's very hard to tell what you've made. I think Ava's the best thing I've made. I don't think it's for everybody. Austin and I kind of flippantly called it like a Hallmark movie with a lot more cursing. But it's good for what it is, for what if you're there to watch a character drama, I think it's a decent character drama. The rule of thumb that I use is, if someone paid $5 for this on Amazon or wherever, would they be disappointed? And I hope not. I don't think so. I think this is worth $5. But we'll see. And I think what I want is feedback. I don't care if it's I care, but I don't care if it's positive or negative. I just want some sort of audience to see it and give back to me what they felt about it, whether it's good or bad. Because Left Unsaid is my next thing. It's also a character drama because I have a type, and I'd like to learn from my previous one. I'd like to learn from my first feature as much as I can. So now, since my last video, if I'm remembering correctly, I've gotten married, lost my first pet, finished my first feature, and in a weird way nothing's changed, which I think is interesting. I'm not unemployed anymore, that's nice. I've got a job, stable job, consistent job. I've got a wife who loves me, I love her back. That's really nice, that's a lot. And I'm much closer to 30 than I ever thought I would be, frankly. And I use that as kind of just a mile marker. I don't want to be afraid of getting older. There's no point in that. You're going to get older. But I think I just want to keep track of where I've been. Because I'm 27 now. When I was 17, I didn't think I'd be alive past really into my 20s at all. Now I'm closing out my 20s, and I think that's, in and of itself, that's really important. In addition to that, my goal as a 9-year-old was to make a movie, whatever that means. I made 2 short films, 2 very, very long short films. And then I made a feature, and it's not completely finished. We have to do the post-production. We have to do some Foley work. We're doing music, obviously, but for all intents and purposes, it's done. Merm, feature film director, is a fact now. It's a fact of history as of 2 days ago. And that was kind of the extent of my life goals. So in a way, I've achieved everything I ever wanted to achieve, which is really cool. And now it's like, you've reached the mountaintop of whatever relative mountain my mountain was. I don't think it was very high off the ground, but I got there. Where do I go next? And I guess that's what next year or the year after's video diary will be about. It's where I've gone since now. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm excited to find out when I get there. Side note, I have an L desk now, that's cool. Xbox over here, monitor, got this for free because Austin had a spare one. Computer, where I finished Mockingbird and did all of Ava. I got posters up here which you can't see, and I'm too lazy to get B-roll, so just believe me. All things considered, it's all right. Life is all right. I have notes. I have things I wish were better, but it's not bad. And that's always nice. I've been doing this for almost 10 years. I've never figured out a closer. Goodbye. I'll see you in 2026.